she hasn't changed one bit since 5 years ago. Nothing. She didn't age. She didn't change her weight. She looks the same. 5 years. Are they AI? Well, I'll leave you to that, and in the meantime, I'm going to check out this video. Spanish versus Italian versus French versus Portuguese. Let's see if I understand everything.
Un. Uno.
Uno.
Un.
Up to this point, very nice.
Deux. Dos.
Due.
Dois.
Very nice. So that's the numbers. Can we have something more interesting than the freaking number? There we go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Chat.
Gatto. Gatto.
Gato.
All right. So let's examine these. Clearly, as usual, French is kind of the one that is less similar than the others. The other three are clearly more related. But that being said, they all come from Latin catus. So, even though the French just put the T here as a Christmas decoration, but they don't pronounce it, which kind of exemplifies 95% of their writing system, still, chat. There is a C. Even though it's not pronounced that way because there is an H after it and whatever, we could discuss how French developed a certain way. And of course, there is certain Germanic to it, the R being an example. But look at this, there is still the C, while all the other languages have evolved from a C to a G. And interestingly enough, English preserves that C. When you say cat, it's still from Latin catus. So, gatto and gatto, almost identical between Spanish and Italian. The only difference is that due to the fact that we have double T, the song is longer. Technically, it's longer. I prefer to see it as stronger as a native speaker, but I understand that linguistically it's a longer sound. So gatto becomes gatto. It's like there is a little pause and then a little jump, if you will. Just one way to say it. And then Portuguese, while it's spelled the same as Spanish, the O to my ear sounds like a U. Let's listen to it again.
Chat.
Gatto. Gatto.
Gato.
Yep, gato. And obviously they have, I believe she's Brazilian. Maybe in this case I would have used a Portuguese just to keep it within European, because of course I personally love Brazilian Portuguese, but I was saying since we are discussing differences, maybe it would have been more I could make that, but let's see what the next animal is anyways. We'll work with what we have.
Cheval.
Cavallo. Cavallo.
Cavalo.
Okay, now the way he pronounced the double L sounds Latin American, because I believe that in Castilian Spanish from Spain, please correct me if I'm wrong, this would have been pronounced a bit like a Y. So something like caballo, caballo, caballo. I'm not actually sure. Yeah, in Italian, of course, cavallo. Cheval, you could think of the word chevalier. They're all clearly related. And then we have, does she pronounce the V? I believe she does, doesn't she? Let's listen to them again for a more precise analysis.
Cheval.
Cavallo. Cavallo.
Cavalo.
Yeah, we all do the V. Even the one in Spanish, even though it's a B, in pronunciation is a V, at least in this version. And one last thing I wanted to say is that, of course, the double L in Italian is just pronounced as a longer / stronger version of the single L. So, cavallo. If this was spelled with one L in Italian, I would read it cavallo. So can you tell the difference? Let's try it again and let me know in the comments. One L, cavallo, doesn't exist. 2L, cavallo. Thank you.
Tigre.
Tigre. Tigre.
Tigre.
Wow. Okay, so once again, Italian and Spanish, the same. French just decided to stop over here. They went for tigre, and clearly there is the uvular R. Although then again, that's kind of a modern development. I know that we associate the r of raisin, rodin, Paris. We do associate it with the French as if it's kind of ubiquitous thing, that's how the French speak and have always spoken. But the reality is that, for instance, if we were to listen to medieval French, their R's would be rolled. Same with English, by the way, whether it be Anglo-Saxon or whether it be Middle English, the R's were rolled. And so this transformation, in the case of English, it went from a R to a R, at least at the beginning of words first, and then eventually all R's were changed into the modern R. And then there was the split between rhotic and non-rhotic accent, in the sense that there are some that would say tiger and some that would say tiger, and the first one being rhotic, the second one being non-rhotic. But even before that, there was just a regular trilled or rolled R, which is in fact the most common way on the planet to pronounce this sound. When it comes to Spanish and Italian, of course, we pronounce it the same, but as I was saying, in French, it's kind of a modern thing. And as far as I understand, they got it from German royalty, which is why, in High German at least, they have pretty much the same uvular R. When they say warum, 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 it's kind of the same sound, isn't it? Not all German speakers use it, some just trill it, but just to say. Portuguese, of course, it was the only different one, because instead of a T, it sounded like a ch, but that's once again because it's the Brazilian variety. So do keep that in mind.
Tigre.
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 Okay, so tigre, 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 cigri. So even the e at the end is a I in this version. Cigri.
Ours.
Oso.
Orso.
Urso.
Okay, so this is another one. Man, I actually like this a lot when it comes to historical linguistics. So ur is French, because obviously O and U is the way the French language produces the sound U. Because if you only had a U, this would be pronounced U. So it would become urs. I mean, it doesn't exist, of course, but I'm just saying, it's if you just have the U, une. So it's a U. And so if you want the full U, then you need OU, right? So this becomes ur. Now, did not know that in Spanish they drop the R. As you see, we keep it in both Italian and Portuguese. Also in Spanish, urso, in Italian, and then she said ursu.
Lion.
Let me hear it again.
Oso.
Orso.
Urso.
Yep, ursu is how she says it. Isn't it interesting how languages work like that? Literally, the U and the O, even though they're two different symbols, they sound the same. At least in Portuguese in this instance.
Lion.
Leon.
Leone.
Leão.
Oh, wow, this is another one that I like. So look how the two languages in the southern section, let's call it, are now presenting very much their nasalized sounds, whereas these sounds are not really present they do exist, but they're a lot less common. So we have leon and leone, Italian just fully pronouncing every single letter in there like your life depends on it. And then you have lion and then leon. I don't know if I pronounce it right, but I've been practicing a little bit, but basically the presence of this creates the nasalized sound, but it's so characteristic of Portuguese that it's something that needs to be practiced. I do have a dedicated video of me practicing it and failing.
Lion.
Leon.
Leone.
Leão.